Thank you all for joining me on this episode of Beyond the Bar. If anything, I hope you guys never forget Davy Crockett. And I hope you always remember the Alamo. So, join us next time where I'm going to be back behind the bar on March the 15th. This president was our first Democratic president. But if I'm going to make it back to Ohio by then, I'm going to have to get moving. And I feel a storm coming. You gotta be kidding me! No, I don't have time. I'll be back, Mr. Lincoln. I'll be back. I'm gonna make it. I can make it. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. Woo! 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 Almost. I'm coming, General. I'm coming. I'm coming. Whew. Whew. You'd be surprised how many hills there are in West Virginia. They're breathtaking. Literally, my breath, they're taking. I'm sorry I'm late, General. It will not happen again. Okay, before I pass out, let's get this guy off. All right, everybody. It took me 6 days to get here. But as you know, the show must go on. Please, fresh, cooling beer. Oh, yes. Sometimes that looks better than the mountains. Amen. All right. As you joined us on our last video, Beyond the Bar, you would know I just ran all the way from Limestone, Tennessee, covering Davy Crockett. And I promised you a fellow Tennessean, number one on my love list President / General Andrew Jackson.
Now that's good history.
Welcome back to A Toast to History. Grab your drink, pull up a bar stool, and let's go over histories that you were never taught. Andrew Jackson was lucky number 7, 7th President of the United States, but he held several other offices before his presidency, including he was a senator and a House of Representative, and he was a justice in the Supreme Court of Tennessee, and he was the first governor of the Florida Territories. He also had a very successful military career that took him all the way to Major General. Now, we all know Andrew Jackson was a controversial president. People didn't like him. People in his time didn't like him. Congressmen didn't like him. His own cabinet had problems with him. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today to put some pages back in the book that you did not read in history class. Now we're going to tell you why I like Andrew Jackson and why he deserves a toast today. We start off with, as I have called my segment, Story Time with Andrew Jackson. He's a young kid. He's 13 years old. It's the Revolutionary War. British officer asks him to shine his boots. He spits in his face. Officer takes the butt of his sword, slices his cheek. He will have that scar the rest of his life. Already 13 years old, and we know who this man's going to be. You spit in an officer's face? They also take his sister. They put him on a prison ship, and she ends up dying. So, needless to say, by the end of the Revolutionary War, this man is not a fan of the British. You weren't a loyalist, were you? As I told you earlier, Andrew Jackson was a justice of the Tennessee Supreme Court. Before he did that, he was a circuit judge. Now, what a circuit judge is you're in charge of an area. They don't come to you. You kind of travel around and you take care of court cases. This one particular court case, this guy was wanted for a crime. They sent a bounty hunter out to get this guy. He came back and said, I couldn't retrieve him. They sent a second bounty hunter out to get this guy. He comes back, I couldn't retrieve him. Andrew Jackson goes out there himself and brings him in. Reporter asks him, 2 bounty hunters couldn't bring you in. How was Jackson able to bring you in? He looks at him and says, in his eyes, I saw the word shoot. I did not see that in those other 2 men's eyes. Now, back then, if you had an argument with someone, you could have a duel with somebody to settle your problems and choose your weapons. Jackson was in 3 duels. All of them were pistols. That's how he liked to settle things sometimes. Now, during this one occasion, there was an argument about a horse race. And him and Mr. Dickinson went back and forth, arguing about this horse race, and both were bashing each other. Now, Dickinson called Jackson a coward. And as you can imagine, this did not sit well with Andrew Jackson. So, he challenged him to a duel. Now, Jackson and Dickinson knows he's the fastest gun in the county. And he's very confident, so he accepts. Now, Jackson still wants to go through with it, but he's like, if I shoot too fast, I know I'm not going to hit him. I'm going to miss. So what happens? They mark off their spaces. They get ready to go. Jackson just stands there. So Dickinson, all right, this is a turkey shoot. Shoots Jackson. He hits him, and he walks back 3 steps and then turns around and stares at it. Now, Dickinson, as you can imagine, I just shot this man, didn't even knock him off his feet, takes off. By the rules of a duel, 2 shots have to be fired. So, the 2 witnesses run him down and put him back. This ain't over yet. Jackson has a shot. Now, Jackson carefully takes aim, pulls the trigger, his gun doesn't go off. Technically, by the rules of a duel, the duel is over. As long as both sides agree that they're satisfied. Clearly, Jackson was not satisfied. He pulls the trigger back, shoots him, and Dickinson dies later that afternoon. That bullet will stand next to his heart for the rest of his life. To Old Hickory, the hero of New Orleans. Andrew Jackson is starting to become pretty well known. But it was the Battle of New Orleans where he becomes a household name and becomes on a national circuit. Now, it's the War of 1812. In the city of Ghent, they are having a treaty between the British and the United States. And we're talking about terms to end this war. But the British have an extra ace up their sleeve. They sent a ship with 8,000 men on it. And they say, we want you to take New Orleans. No matter what you hear, your job is to take the city of New Orleans. It's going to be a bargaining chip at the treaty. Now, most Americans are going home. The war is over. They're ready to sign the treaty. So when 8,000 troops pull up in the New Orleans harbor, and Andrew Jackson's there, he has 1,200 regulars, and he has a few militia. So, he's clearly outnumbered. He gets a Native American tribe to help him. He gets slaves to help him. If you can hold a gun, he's talking to you to help him defend the city of New Orleans. He even gets cannons from a local pirate because they feel that the British have rendered them illegal on the high seas. We might be able to get a little more grace from the Americans. So you have a group of the most ragtag bunch of rebels facing the greatest army in the world, little under 6,000 men versus 8,000 of the best troops in the world, and somehow this man holds them off and wins the battle. The hero of New Orleans, he's rendered. They start calling him Old Hickory, because in Tennessee you can get no harder wood than the wood from a hickory tree. Hence, Old Hickory. 1824, they decide to bring Andrew Jackson and have him run for president. The hero of New Orleans, running for president. It's a great tagline. And as you can tell, Andrew Jackson does not like criticism or when you deface his honor. But if you ever really wanted to pick a fight with him, you would discuss his wife. Now, his wife was a married woman. Technically, her husband left, and she filed a divorce, but he never came back to sign the papers. So technically, she was always married. Jackson loved her, didn't care, married her anyway. That's who Jackson is. You don't get in my way. And if you do get in my way, you better be in the mood for a fight. So, he marries her. This is a huge scandal, and they focus on this, and they pound this in during the campaign. So, one afternoon, Jackson's on the Capitol steps, and he's campaigning. And a reporter brings this up. And Jackson whips out his cane and beats the man on the Capitol steps. Now, I know we've heard a lot of things from our politicians. We're like, oh, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe he did this. I can't believe that happened. But do you ever think you'd see a politician beating a reporter on the Capitol steps? And you know what? He still won the popular vote. Jackson was the first candidate to win the popular vote. but lose the Electoral College. This was in 1824. This is what we call the corrupt bargain. Henry Clay, the third candidate from the Whig Party, realized he could not win. He was the odd man out. But he hated Jackson and would love nothing more but to see him lose. So he told his guys, you know what? Don't vote for me. I have no chance of winning. Give him to John Quincy Adams. This tipped the scale, and John Quincy Adams wins the nomination. Did Henry Clay become Secretary of State after that election? Yes, he did. That's pretty convenient. Now, Andrew Jackson, you can imagine this pissed him off. And he was quoted as saying, Henry Clay has received his 30 pieces of silver. Now, after this basically splits the party up. The Republican Democratic Party splits into the Republicans and the Democrats. That's why we have this today. This guy. And 4 years later, when he wins, we have your first Democratic president, Andrew Jackson. People don't like Jackson today, but people didn't like him back then either. People in his own party didn't like him. People in his cabinet didn't like him. People in Congress did not like him. His opponent, they list him as a jackass. But Jackson laughs at this and embraces it and puts donkeys on all his campaign stuff. When he runs and he wins the presidency in 1828, now you see a donkey on everything. First Democrat to win, so all you people out there who like your donkeys around election time, thank this guy. Now you talk about crazy facts about Andrew Jackson. This is crazy facts about presidents in general. When he wins the presidency, they get the term, he's the common man. So everybody shows up at the common man's house, which is now the White House, to party with Andrew Jackson. So he throws this huge party where everybody's invited. And they tear up the White House in this huge party. And a distributor of cheese out of New York knew he was a fan of cheese. So he makes a 2-foot thick, 4 feet from top to bottom, 1,400-pound cheese ball and delivers this to the White House. So people were having fun with this thing, and they're rolling it around the halls of the White House. This is where, legend has it, we get the term, get the ball rolling. Some accounts say that they did not get the stench of cheese out of the White House for about a month. Now, I kind of gave you a taste of this during the Love List, and if you have not seen the episode, I would highly recommend it. It's very close to my heart. Pardon the pun. But during his presidency, South Carolina, they're upset with the taxes that Jackson has placed on them for imports. Now, South Carolina, being a very big import community, mostly Charleston, is pretty upset about this. And there's talk of secession. I know you all know Lincoln in 1861, how they seceded, but this could have happened all these years earlier. But Jackson was not going to have it. Needless to say, in 1828, South Carolina did not secede. Now, there was another one I went over in the Love List. We talk about Ronald Reagan, how he survived an assassination attempt. He's not the only one. Andrew Jackson did as well. He's in the House of Congress. He comes out the door, and a man comes up to him. He's 10 feet away, pulls a pistol, aims at Jackson. Click. Gun doesn't go off. Andrew Jackson immediately pulls his cane, 67-year-old man, and charges at his assassinator. The man pulls a second pistol. Click. It doesn't go off. This man is being beaten by Andrew Jackson, a 67-year-old man, in the Houses of Congress. Now, several congressmen dive in to subdue the president as well as the assassinator. Another local legend, Davy Crockett, is one of the men that subdues and has to pull the president off of the assassinator. The police take these guns back to the police station, and both of them fire perfectly. There was a chance of 1 in 127,000 chance that he was not shot that day. I don't know what it is about Andrew Jackson, but he can scare even bullets from coming out of their chamber. Jackson was not a fan of being called Mr. President. Now, if you called him Mr. President, he'd acknowledge you. He'd be polite. But he preferred to be called General Jackson. Now, even on his gravestone at the Hermitage, out there in the courtyard, it says just General Jackson and the year he was born and the year he died, right next to his wife, Rachel. It's at the Hermitage in Old Hickory, Tennessee. Prefer you all to go. I'm telling you, I've been to presidential houses. It's one of the most elaborate. Now, on the outside, it looks pretty good. But they don't show the inside because they want you to come and see it for yourself. And I'm telling you, it's breathtaking. Like those West Virginia mountains I just crossed, it's breathtaking. And they do a heck of a job. We went there for his birthday last year. And, I mean, a lot of the stuff got canceled because of COVID, their party. And they don't roll the cheese ball around like he would have. But they do a heck of a job, and they are worth a visit. I know, General, that you have a very small inscription on your tombstone. But the gardens, the house, the grounds, you will never be forgotten, sir. A toast to Andrew Jackson. I'm sorry, but beer on this day just does not seem fitting for General Jackson. He's a Tennessean. They aren't drinking beer. They're drinking whiskey. And Andrew Jackson does not deserve any drinking whiskey that I drink on a regular Friday night. He deserves our house best, which is my house best, my favorite Tennessee whiskey, Old Hickory. Will you join me, General? To Andrew Jackson. The common man, who is not very common. Most times in history, you have to decipher between the facts and the legends. It was his facts that made him a legend. One of my favorite quotes from a movie, heroes are remembered, but legends never die. He was both. To Andrew Jackson, I hope your storm has been calmed. Happy birthday, Mr. President. You're right, sir. Sorry, sir. I apologize, sir. Happy birthday, General Jackson, the hero of New Orleans. Now that's good history. I know, General Jackson, that you weren't a fan of paper money because you wanted gold or silver because they were still valued. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to hurt your feelings that you are on the 20. Fired our cans to the barrel melted down, and then we grabbed an alligator and we fought another round. We filled his head with cannonballs and we powdered his behind. And when we touched the powder off, the gator lost his mind. Woo!